Seriously, Cartoon Network might seem all sunshine and rainbows and talking animals, but sometimes when a bad guy meets their end, things get dark. We've got falls, we've got crushing, we've got, well, you'll see. Let's start things off with a little appetizer, a warm-up for the truly gnarly stuff to come. Some, for one reason or another, get a slap on the wrist. They get off easy, and honestly, sometimes that's the most frustrating thing of all. Let's start off with a few of these lucky devils who manage to sidestep a truly gruesome fate. First up is Miss Endive from Chowder. She's basically the meanest chef in Marzipan City and loves making Mungdal's life miserable. She's a master manipulator, even using her own apprentice, Panini, to mess with Chowder. You'd think someone so nasty would get what's coming to them, right? Not really. She's got a huge grudge against men because her fiancé ditched her, but then she totally forces Mung's rock monster employee, Schnitzel, to marry her. Her temper is explosive, and everyone's terrified of her. She has these tiny moments where she almost feels bad, like when she thinks she squashed Mung and Chowder with giant potatoes. But don't be fooled. This is the same person who made them work themselves to death for fruit, only to smash it in their faces for fun. She even had a skeleton in her closet, and she set her dog guards on Mung, Chowder, and Schnitzel, just for asking to use her pool. Her big dirty secret is that she eats her toe jam with a fork instead of a spoon. Apparently, that's super scandalous in Marzipan City. The show even calls her the coldest person in Marzipan City. She looks down on Chowder, calling him the purple one, while thinking Panini is amazing. So what happens to this terrible skeleton-hoarding, man-hating chef? Does she get what she deserves? Nope. The series finale shows her getting exactly what she wanted. She marries Schnitzel. That's it. She lives happily ever after with the rock monster she'd been obsessed with. For all her evil, she gets a happy ending. Talk about getting off scot-free. Now for a slightly more complex case, a character whose death was the central mystery of an entire show, but who ultimately didn't really die at all. I'm talking, of course, about Pink Diamond from Steven Universe. As a member of the Great Diamond Authority, she was all set to colonize Earth, but then she fell in love with the planet and its life. She pleaded with the other diamonds, but they just saw her as a bratty kid throwing a tantrum. She was actually short-tempered and would punch walls when she got mad, so I guess you can see why they might have thought that. But her intentions were pure. When she realized the only way to stop the colonization was to get herself out of the picture, she did the most dramatic thing possible. She faked her own death. Then she permanently reformed as Rose Quartz, making that her new default form. This death was anything but gruesome for her. She got to shed the identity she hated and become the mysterious, beloved leader of the Crystal Gems. She was seen as this all-loving, compassionate figure who saw beauty in everything. She was a masterful tactician, a brave warrior, and a motherly figure to the gems who followed her, but it was all built on secrets. She never told her closest friends, the Crystal Gems, that she was actually Pink Diamond. She imprisoned her friend Bismuth in a bubble for thousands of years because Bismuth created a weapon that could actually win the war, and then lied to everyone about what happened. And don't even get me started on Spinal. Her original best friend, her playmate, left standing alone in a garden for 6,000 years because Pink just got bored and moved on. She was immature, throwing tantrums so destructive, they permanently damaged her own pearl. So after all that, what was her grand punishment? She got to fall in love with a human, Greg Universe, and have a child, Steven. She essentially gets to live on through him. Her gemstone and many of her powers passed down. She escaped all accountability. So remember that. Remember Pink Diamond getting off scot-free, because the villains we're about to talk about were not nearly so lucky. Next, Lquack, the con artist duck from Courage the Cowardly Dog, is one of Courage's most annoying enemies. Unlike the weird monsters, Lquack is a pure criminal, a thief, a schemer, and surprisingly good at disguises for a duck. His whole deal is getting rich. In his first episode, he pretends to be an amnesia doctor to rob the bags, knocking out Eustace and torturing Muriel with pies and stinky cheese to find her valuables. He gets arrested all the time, but he always breaks out. In another episode, he tricked Muriel into robbing a bank from a hot air balloon, then just cut her bungee cord and let her fall once he had the money. This duck has no morals. He only cares about money and doesn't care if people get hurt. In the Ball of Revenge episode, he's there, and then he just vanishes before Courage uses his big scream. So we can assume he escaped again. He just keeps getting away with it. Now, let's talk about the villains who didn't die, but probably wish they had. These are the ones who got stuck with long-term suffering, humiliation, and messed up minds. Their endings leave them broken and totally stripped of their power. Let's start with Grim from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Calling Grim a villain is a bit much, since he's usually just a miserable guy stuck in a bad situation. But let's not forget, he is death. His job is to collect souls, and he likes it. He's got the classic skeleton look, the black cloak, the scythe, and a cool Jamaican accent. His scythe isn't just for reaping, it's a magic tool that can do almost anything. But his whole mess started with a huge failure. He shows up to collect Billy's dying hamster, Mr. Mr. Snuggles and gets tricked into a limbo contest by 2 kids, and he loses. The deal was simple. If they win, he becomes their best friend for eternity, and that's his punishment. Not death, but being forced to serve the 2 most chaotic, annoying, and destructive kids on Earth forever. He spends his life as their personal magic slave, doing their chores, getting them out of trouble, and dealing with their endless stupidity. He often dreams of them being gone, and has tried to get out of the deal many times, but he's always stuck. Even though he does grow to care for them a little bit, his initial fate is super ironic and never-ending humiliation. It's a fate far worse and longer than any quick slice of his side. Next up is the original Queen of Mean, Heather from Total Drama. This girl was a master of being awful, manipulative, and backstabbing, all for that $1 million prize. She was sharp, with black hair and an attitude that screamed, "I'm better than you." In the first season, she made friends with the naive Lindsay and Beth, basically turning them into her helpers to do all her dirty work and win challenges. Remember when she told Harold she hated being mean? Total lie. It was just a trick to use his brain. She was so cruel that in the finale, she actually hoped Gwen would fall into shark-filled water, even calling birds to distract her. She bossed Courtney around, annoyed Owen, and generally made everyone's life miserable on the island. But here's the thing about being that mean. It bites you back. Her biggest weakness was relying too much on others. When her fake friendships fell apart, she was on her own. Even though she was still smart, everyone hated her. Her punishment wasn't some dramatic fall, it was much more fitting for her. In a challenge, her head got shaved completely bald. For someone so obsessed with her looks, this was the ultimate humiliation. She spent the next season wearing silly wigs, but the real punishment was being alone. And despite all her scheming, never winning in the early seasons, she was hated, nobody trusted her, and she ended up a loser in the game she tried so hard to control. Now, let's talk about Mr. Ross from regular show, the movie. This guy's desire for revenge was so small-minded, it almost wiped out the universe. Back when Mordecai and Rigby were in high school, Ross was their science teacher and volleyball coach. During a championship game, Rigby distracted everyone, making them lose. This one moment stuck with Ross for years. He even built a time machine just to go back and fix that game and get revenge on Rigby. Talk about holding a grudge. Things got wild when Rigby, worried about failing science, stole the time machine with Mordecai to change their grades. They accidentally blew up the science lab, creating a Timonado, a time-destroying vortex, and got Ross fired and jailed. Years later, in a ruined future, Ross became a super muscular, vengeful warlord, using the Timonado to erase all of time. He was completely ruthless, driven by a high school grudge. His end in this timeline was brutal. After a fight, he was pushed off a bridge, and his rewind collar went crazy. Rigby sliced his head off, but the collar kept bringing it back, looping his decapitation over and over. His headless body ran around while his head kept getting reattached and sliced off until his glitching body was sucked into the Timonado and erased. You'd think that's a deadly fate, right? But the movie's whole point was to stop this future from happening. In the corrected timeline, Mordecai and Rigby apologized to high school Mr. Ross for messing up the game. This simple act changed him completely. He became a happy, normal guy, never went to jail, never became a warlord, and never suffered that looping decapitation. So, while his evil self got one of the most gruesome ends ever, the real Mr. Ross just got to be happy. Next is Scoutmaster Algonquin C. Lumpus from Camp Laszlo, whose punishment attacked his huge fake ego head-on. This guy was the Scoutmaster of Camp Kidney, but that's a loose term. Lumpus was a tall, grumpy moose who was the absolute worst. He was selfish, stingy, bossy, and totally ignored his duties. He had no morals and only cared about his own status and comfort. He really wanted to be the head Scoutmaster, but was stuck at this run-down summer camp with campers he couldn't stand, especially the super optimistic Laszlo. He'd throw huge tantrums whenever things didn't go his way. He was incompetent and usually relied on his assistant, Slinkman the Banana Slug, to do all the real work. Here's the big secret. At the end of the series, we find out Lumpus was never the real Scoutmaster. He was an imposter. Years ago, he locked the actual Scoutmaster in a closet and just took his job, forging a family history and living a lie. This explains everything about him, like his incompetence, his lack of connection to the camp, and his constant frustration. He was a fraud living in fear of being caught. In the final episode, that's exactly what happens. The real Scoutmaster breaks out and exposes Lumpus in front of everyone. He was arrested and hauled off to a mental asylum, screaming for revenge as his entire world fell apart. For someone defined by his massive ego, ego and desperate need for status, being publicly exposed as a pathetic fraud and locked away is the most perfectly humiliating and non-lethal end you could imagine. Now, let's talk about Rob from the amazing world of Gumball. Poor Rob, or maybe not so poor, since he became a supervillain. But his origin story? Yikes! Rob started as literally nobody, a background character, a tall, blue Cyclops student. He was so insignificant that the universe decided he was a mistake and sent him to the Void, a dimension that deletes and holds anything the universe deems an error. That's harsh. While Gumball and Darwin were in the Void rescuing another mistake, Molly Collins, Rob was there calling for help, and they just didn't notice him. Ouch. He eventually escaped, but the process physically broke him. He came back disfigured, a glitchy, asymmetrical mess of CGI static and mismatched parts. His head is a floating dodecahedron, his eye is a pale yellow lemniscate, and his limbs are made of television static. The old Rob was a normal, friendly kid. The new Rob had amnesia and no idea who he was. Gumball and Darwin tried to help him find a new purpose, suggesting he become their bad guy. In that moment, Rob remembered being abandoned in the Void and swore vengeance, not just because they left him, but because being their villain finally gave him a reason to exist. He literally chose evil just to have an identity. This is a non-lethal but gruesome fate. Rob's punishment was a complete destruction of his self. He claimed he never wanted to be the villain, feeling the universe forced him into that role. He became a super smart, genuinely dangerous threat, planning to destroy Gumball, all fueled by revenge and recognition. He even became aware he was in a cartoon, which only increased his existential dread. His end, at least before the show's finale, was just as existentially bleak. After a huge plan goes wrong, he gets sucked back into the Void. This time he accepts it, telling Gumball, "This is where my story ends. I belong here with the rest of the universe's mistakes." He had so completely accepted that he was an error that he ran from rescue. Though he eventually helps Gumball, his ultimate fate in the series finale is to be the first one consumed by the Void as it erases all of Elmore. He tries to save everyone by turning them into humans to escape into the other place, but fails. He is swallowed by the nothingness he was born from. And that, my friends, is a terrifying way to go. Let's turn to a classic, the one, the only, Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. Mojo's story is the classic tale of a pet gone wrong, with a dash of mad science. Before he was the scourge of Townsville, he was just Jojo, Professor Utonium's little lab assistant chimp. He was a bit of a troublemaker, sure, but not pure evil. When Professor was trying to create the perfect little girls, Jojo, feeling jealous and ignored, tried to mess with the experiment. In doing so, he accidentally caused the professor to add the secret ingredient Chemical X, and the Powerpuff Girls were born. But the explosion didn't just create the girls, it blasted Jojo with Chemical X too. His brain grew to a ridiculous size, popping right out of his skull, his skin turned green, and he was granted super intelligence. But with that intelligence came a whole new set of nasty emotions: envy, an inferiority complex, and a deep-seated desire for revenge. He felt he was the professor's true creation, his son, and these girls had stolen his birthright. So he dedicated his life to one thing and one thing only: destroying the Powerpuff Girls, crushing Townsville, and conquering the world in that order. And Mojo's punishment is the most humiliating, repetitive, and eternal punishment a supervillain could ever face: constant, abject failure. This dude is a genius. He's capable of quickly engineering high-tier weapons, robotics, and other advanced technological devices. He builds giant robots, energy cannons, and comes up with intricate schemes. He even successfully created his own superpowered beings, the Rowdy Rough Boys, the perfect evil counterparts to the girls. He has, on occasion, actually defeated the Powerpuff Girls, like the time in Mr. Mojo's Rising, where he just straight up curb stomped them. Another time, he put them in the hospital with broken bones. He turned the whole world into dogs once. The guy has the brains and the power to succeed, but he never does. Not for long, anyway. Every single time, no matter how close he gets, something goes wrong. The Powerpuff Girls, 3 kindergartners, always find a way to thwart him. His grand plans for world domination always end with him getting beaten to a pulp and thrown in jail. Then he breaks out, builds a new lair, invents a new doomsday device, and the whole cycle starts all over again. He never gets the sweet release of death. He just gets another curses and a one-way trip back to the slammer. And rounding out our characters who suffered but didn't die, we have a guy who proves that sometimes the best karma is a really, really big shark. Let's talk about Scott from the Total Drama franchise. This guy's a total schemer, a farm boy whose main goal is to win $1 million, no matter who he has to mess over. He's so devious, his best childhood memory is getting his parents to argue. In his first season, Revenge of the Island, he literally throws challenges to get his own teammates voted off, all while finding hidden immunity idols to save himself. He's He's the ultimate backstabber, blackmailing and framing people. He even taunts a mutated shark named Fang by stealing its tooth. Bad move, real bad move. So what happens to him? His scheming blows up in his face. He gets found out and Fang the shark absolutely mauls him. He ends up in a trauma chair, a full body cast that makes him look like a low-budget Darth Vader, only able to blink to communicate, and the other contestants just laugh at him. Ouch. But it doesn't end there. He comes back for total drama all-stars. Physically healed, but mentally scarred. He's got a huge fear of sharks now. His fearless, do-anything attitude is gone. He's still a schemer, but more of a funny sidekick villain than the master manipulator he once was. He gets a weird crush on Courtney and eats dirt. He's just sad. His punishment was his ego and reputation getting completely crushed. For someone as arrogant as Scott, that's way worse than just getting voted off. All right, we've seen villains get off easy and those who got punished but lived. Now, let's get into the lethal fates. These are the villains who didn't just lose, they were totally destroyed in the most shocking ways. This isn't for the faint of heart. Let's kick this off in the place where terror was a weekly occurrence. Nowhere, Kansas, the home of Courage, the cowardly dog. And what better place to start than with the farmer of cruelty himself, Eustace Bag. And let me tell you, death is something that comes knocking on Eustace's door a lot. The dude is arguably the most consistently villainous character in the whole show, second only to the monsters of the week. He's cruel, he's greedy, he's selfish, and he constantly terrorizes Courage, and even puts Muriel in danger for his own gain. And because he's so awful, the universe seems to take great pleasure in punishing him in the most final ways imaginable. The show has a loose continuity, so he always comes back, but the deaths he suffers are insane. Let's look at the evidence. In King Ramses' curse, his greed gets the better of him. He refuses to return the ancient slab, and after plagues of water, locusts, and loud music, what happens? King Ramses takes him, presumably killed, and dragged to some ancient Egyptian underworld. But that's not even the most gruesome one. In the Forbidden Hat of Gold, he steals the titular hat out of pure greed, lying and causing Muriel to be captured and almost sacrificed. He gets away with it, puts on the hat, and what's his reward? The hat turns him completely to stone, and then he crumbles to dust. Then there's Last of the Star Makers. He holds a celestial octopus and her babies hostage on the orders of an evil general, all for money. What he doesn't know is that the money is actually experimental rocket fuel. The episode ends with him getting blasted into the sky and blown up in a massive explosion. And these are just the highlights. He's constantly getting maimed, mutated, and put in life-threatening situations because of his own horrible personality. While he may be the show's tritagonist, Eustace Bag has died more gruesome deaths than most primary villains ever do. Karma is a real thing in the town of nowhere, and it really, really does not like Eustace. Next up, the coolest, most evil cat in cartoons, Cats. This guy is the opposite of Courage. Courage is about love and bravery. Cats is pure, cold-blooded evil. He's calm, sophisticated, and loves tormenting and killing people. He's Courage's real arch-enemy, and when he shows up, you know things are serious. Cats runs seemingly normal businesses that are actually death traps. A motel where he feeds guests to spiders. A submarine cruise he plans to blow up. A candy store where he tries to turn Muriel into taffy. This cat is a stone-cold sociopath. How does a villain this smooth meet his end? Like Eustace, he's had some really close calls. In Cat's Candy, he gets caught in his own taffy pulling machine. In Cats Under the Sea, he escapes his exploding submarine. But then a giant shark swallows him whole. The last we see of him, he's stuck in the shark's belly demanding not to be eaten. Again, a humiliating and gruesome end, even if not permanent. But his final fate is in Ball of Revenge. He's the leader of the villains, wanting to have a little sport before they kill Courage. He's loving every minute of it. But when Courage screams, Cats is right there with the others, falling into that dark, bottomless pit. For a villain who was all about control and being the calm predator, to end up as just another victim of Courage's terrified scream is the perfect, deadly ending for him. Speaking of that basement beatdown, let's talk about another one of its attendees, the seductive and sinister Black Puddle Queen. She's one of the most memorable and truly creepy villains, even with only a couple of appearances. She's a beautiful, alluring sea demon who comes out of any water, even a cup of tea, to charm men. She lures her victims to her underwater palace, does a seductive dance, gives them a shell necklace, and then she transforms. Her jaw unhinges, she shows off rows of sharp teeth, and she strips them of their flesh, leaving only a smiling skeleton wearing her necklace. That's one of the darkest ideas in any kid's show. She even has a dog form she tries on Courage. How do you beat a creature like this? In her first appearance, Courage saves Eustace and escapes her watery world through a puddle of Muriel's tears, of course, then seals the portal with a hairdryer. She's trapped but not dead. Her final deadly fate comes in Ball of Revenge. During the dodgeball game, she's vicious, attacking Courage with sea creatures from a spilled sports drink Puddle. When they have Courage cornered, she's holding a missile conch shell, ready to blow him up. But she too is powerless against Courage's scream. The chasm opens, and down she goes. No more charming men, no more stripping them to the bone, just a long, dark fall. And now for the last couple of bad guys from the Ball of Revenge Death Squad. First up, the Cajun Fox from Cajun Granny Stew. He's a smooth-talking, crafty fox with a Cajun accent who wants to turn Muriel into stew. He literally kidnaps Muriel to cook and eat her. He seems laid back, but he's a predatory monster. Courage beats him in his first episode, but his next and last appearance is, of course, Ball of Revenge, where he's ready to kill Courage with a meat cleaver. But like the others, he wasn't ready for the scream. The ground splits open, and the Cajun Fox takes a one-way trip down into the chasm of doom. No more Granny Stew for him. And then there's the Big Toe. This is one of the weirdest villains ever. From the episode The Clutching Foot, the Big Toe is a sentient, talking purple fungus that grows on Eustace's foot. This foot fungus takes over Eustace's whole body and blackmails Courage into committing crimes. It forces Courage to rob a bank and stop a train so it can rob passengers. Its ultimate goal? To take over Florida. A foot fungus wants to be the kingpin of the Sunshine State. Courage defeats it by licking it off Eustace's foot, which is as gross as it sounds. But this purple mob boss holds a grudge, so naturally he shows up for the Ball of Revenge. During the dodgeball, the Big Toe is used as a catapult to launch things at Courage, and then he kicks a dozen bowling balls at him. At the very end, he's holding a spiked club, ready to bash Courage's brains in. But the scream comes, the chasm opens, and the entire evil foot fungus, the Big Toe, and his little finger gang all fall into the abyss. It's a truly bizarre end for a truly bizarre villain. Let's leave the surreal horror of nowhere and talk about Auntie Pops from regular show. Auntie Pops is not your average villain. He's not trying to rob a bank or take over a city. This dude is a literal godlike being, the embodiment of evil, and his brother, the lovable, lollipop-headed Pops, is the embodiment of good. They are cosmic twins, destined to battle at the beginning and end of every universe. Their fight literally resets all of reality every 14 billion years. That is a level of antagonism that is just mind-boggling. Visually, he's terrifying. He looks just like Pops, but he's all black, glowing with a white outline, has a sharp lightning bolt mustache, and razor-sharp teeth. And his personality matches. He's evil, sadistic, cruel, cold-hearted, sinister, ruthless, authoritative, dangerous, and megalomaniacal. His goal is simple and horrifying. Kill his brother, Pops, and end the cycle so he can wipe out the universe and remake it in his own twisted, evil image. Throughout the final season of regular show, he hires bounty hunters. He erases people from existence with a single thought, turning them into a sticky note and then a white box. He erased a space store clerk just for taking too long to give his soldier change. That's a level of petty evil that is just off the charts. He has superhuman everything: strength, speed, telekinesis, pyrokinesis. He can destroy planets with his bare fists. He is, for all intents and purposes, unstoppable. The final battle is one of the most epic and emotional finales in cartoon history. Auntie Pops erases almost everyone, leaving just Mordecai, Rigby, and Pops. He and Pops engage in their destined final battle, and Auntie Pops is winning. He's about to deliver the final blow and achieve his goal of total universal annihilation. And then Pops does something no one expects. He doesn't throw one last punch. He doesn't fire one last energy beam. He tackles his evil brother with a hug. As they fly together, locked in this hug, towards a star, Auntie Pops actually shows a moment of remorse. He wishes he could take back all the one-star reviews he gave, which is his weird way of expressing regret. Pops tells him it's okay and smiles at him. And then they fly directly into the sun, both completely incinerated. It is a straight-up double suicide mission to save the universe. Absolutely incredible. From one cosmic entity to another, let's talk about the ultimate evil in the land of Ooh, the big bad of Adventure Time, the Lich. The Lich is, without a doubt, one of the most terrifying villains ever conceived for a children's show. He's not funny, he's not misunderstood, he has absolutely no redeeming qualities. He doesn't want power or money, he just wants everything to die. He is oblivion incarnate. His original form is this massive, undead, skeletal sorcerer with horrific green light in his eyes. He has the power to control minds. His touch can decay and destroy, and he can breathe a fog of pure death. The Lich has had so many deaths, each one more gruesome and bizarre than the last. First, there's his initial defeat by Finn. Finn uses a sweater made with love to fight him, and the power of liking someone a lot causes the Lich's body to explode. His most famous death, though, is his reincarnation. After a complicated series of events involving Prismo the Wishmaster and an alternate reality, the Lich's physical body is destroyed by the Citadel's healing blood, which is meant to heal but is toxic to his pure evil. But instead of dying, his essence is reborn. He's transformed into a giant, sweet, innocent baby with little horns who Finn and Jake's parents adopt and name Sweet Pea. He's still technically in there deep down, but he's trapped inside the mind of a kid who just wants to play. It's a bizarre and strangely beautiful defeat. Let's move from the land of Ooh to a future ruled by pure, shape-shifting evil. A future where one villain's reign has lasted for untold ages. We have to talk about the Shogun of Sorrow, the Deliverer of Darkness, the one and only AKU from Samurai Jack. AKU is evil with a capital E. He was born from a black mass of pure evil that crashed on Earth millions of years ago. When he was finally awoken in feudal Japan, the Emperor tried to destroy him with a magic arrow, but this only gave the evil mass sentience and a name, Aku. His first act was to declare, "Fool, nothing of this world can harm me, for I am Aku." And for thousands of years, he was right. AKU is cruel, he's heartless, he's domineering. He takes absolute joy in the suffering of others. He enslaved countless races, forcing them to build monuments to him until they died of exhaustion. He destroyed the Emperor's kingdom and forced him to watch. He trapped the lava monster in a crystal prison and made him watch as he slaughtered everyone he ever loved. Aku's also incredibly intelligent and cunning, a master manipulator who can take any form to trick his foes. And yet, he's hilarious. That's the weird genius of AKU. He has this dry, sadistic sense of humor. He's genre savvy, sometimes breaking the fourth wall to comment on how cliché a situation is. It makes him completely unpredictable and utterly captivating as a villain. So how do you kill a being of pure evil who is nigh immortal and can change his shape at will? For 50 years in the future, you don't. That was his ultimate punishment for Jack. He flings Jack into a distant future where his evil is law, a future Jack can't escape. Jack can't age, so he's trapped in an endless battle. This goes on for so long that even AKU gets bored and depressed, wishing someone would just kill Jack for him. But the final lethal fate of AQ is one of the most satisfying in all of animation. Through the help of Ashi, Aku's own daughter who breaks free from his control, Jack finally gets what he's been fighting for. Ashi, using the time travel powers she inherited from AKU, opens a portal and sends Jack back to the past, just moments after the original AKU had sent him to the future. Jack arrives back in feudal Japan, in front of his younger, less powerful past self. AKU is shocked, confused, and utterly terrified. He is no longer the all-powerful god of the future. He is back where he started, and this time, Jack is ready. With his magic sword, the only thing that can truly harm AKU, Jack ferociously attacked him without mercy and sealed him inside his katana again. He explodes in a flash of light, and he is gone, for good. But the death is even more gruesome than that, because AKU was erased from the past. The future that he created never existed. It's a total timeline wipe. And since Ashi was born from Aku's essence, a product of that future, she fades from existence. It is a triumphant but unbelievably tragic and brutal end. Now, let's talk about a villain who absolutely did not get a get-out-of-jail-free card. Slade from Teen Titans was no ordinary bad guy. He was a master of mind games, using his smarts and endless tech to mess with the Titans, especially Robin. He wanted Robin as his apprentice, even infecting the other Titans with nanobots to force Robin's hand. His twisted plans also involved Tara, a young girl with huge, uncontrollable powers. He promised to help her, but really, he just wanted to use her. He broke her down, turning her against the Titans. Tara eventually became his apprentice, got a new suit with his symbol, and he could even tap into her powers. He was a predator, plain and simple. With Tara under his thumb, Slade took over the city, mercilessly defeating the Titans. But heroes always bounce back. When Tara failed to destroy them again, Slade actually hit her. Furious his weapon wasn't working. He then fully controlled her, using her to try and kill Beast Boy. But Tara fought back. Slade, totally in denial, called her ungrateful. She then sent him to his apparent doom in a lava pit, while she turned to stone. His own plan to control her literally blew up in his face. That's a lethal fate if there ever was one. But wait, it gets worse. In Season 4, he came back. But how? After Tara killed him, he met Trigon the Terrible, Raven's demonic father. Trigon resurrected him, but his soul was bound to Trigon's will, and his body was just animated bones. He eventually gets his mortal body back by betraying Trigon, but is then just blasted away by the Demon King in the final battle. So not only did he suffer one of the most gruesome deaths imaginable, he was then brought back to a state of undead servitude, a fate that is arguably even more horrifying. Speaking of villains who just refuse to stay down, let's talk about Vilgax from the Ben 10 franchise. This squid-faced warlord just wants to rule the universe, and his target is the Omnitrix. He's pure evil, so feared that his army is mostly robots or forced recruits. He's a chimera sui generis, but super modified. His powers are insane. Superhuman strength that can shatter Diamond Head and destroy a chunk of Mount Rushmore with one punch. punch. He's incredibly tough, surviving nuclear explosions and being launched into space by way big, twice XLR-8, who's super fast, nearly passed out ramming him, and Vilgax didn't even flinch, and his power just keeps escalating. 5 years after the original series, he comes back as the conqueror of 10 worlds. How? He stole the powers of 10 entire planets worth of heroes. He gained the ability to shoot heat beams from his eyes that could chase down speedsters, fly faster than light between planets, and had hearing so sharp he could hear Ben sneeze from miles away while underground. He fought way big, an alien the size of a skyscraper, and while he lost, the fact that he could even go toe-to-toe with him is insane. Later, he fuses with a demonic entity called a Lucubra, gaining the power to shoot purple energy that could melt through futuristic armor and kill soldiers in one shot. And if that's not enough, his last on-screen battle has him forming an alliance with the villain Albedo to steal the petrified corpse of the mutant galvanic mechamorph, Malware. He turns the dead villain's body into a suit of powered armor for himself, becoming Malgax. In this form, his strength is so immense, he can send Diamond Head flying to a planet's moon with one punch, and he can completely ignore nuclear attacks from Atomics, one of Ben's most powerful aliens. He's been blown to bits, dismembered, nuked, and launched across the solar system. His deaths are just a cycle of being obliterated and crawling back, more monstrous each time. He's the universe's most stubborn, brutal cockroach, and his sheer endurance is a gruesome fate in itself. Now, let's talk about the punishments that go beyond just dying. These attack the mind, the soul, and the very essence of a being. These are the fates that make you think that a quick, clean death would have been a mercy. The fates worse than death. First on this list of eternal suffering is a being so powerful, so ancient that villain barely seems like the right word. We're talking about Gulb from Adventure Time. Gulb is the living, breathing embodiment of chaos and discord. This dude isn't evil in the way a king who wants to conquer a kingdom is evil. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a motive. He's depicted as this colossal, red, baby-like creature with a square head and 4 vacant yellow eyes. He just exists. And where he exists, things fall apart, get corrupted, or are just straight up erased from reality. He's so powerful that he transcends pretty much everything, existing before existence itself. He is the original being. For most of Adventure Time, Gulb is this terrifying background threat. We see him in a flashback attacking Mars and killing Magic Man's wife. We learn that the Lich, one of the scariest villains in the entire series, considers himself the last scholar of Gulb. But in the series finale, come along with me, Betty Groff and King Man summon him to Ooh, and all heck breaks loose. He mutates a gumball guardian. He even swallows Finn, Ice King, Simon, and Betty Gruff whole. Inside him, they start to de-res, reverting to their most essential non-magical forms. This is it. This is the end. But then, BMO, our little robot buddy, starts singing a simple, beautiful song called Time Adventure, and the monsters freeze. The heroes realize that Gulb's one weakness, the only thing that can counter pure chaos, is harmony. The music weakens him just enough for Finn and Simon to escape, but Betty stays behind. She stayed inside the god of chaos to make a wish. And what did she wish for? To keep Simon safe, always. And in that moment, the wish transforms her. She doesn't destroy Gulb, she doesn't kill him, she merges with him. She becomes Gulbetti. They are both trapped, 2 consciousnesses in one body, banished to another dimension, never to be free. That's not death. That's an eternal, paradoxical sentence that is so much more terrifying. Next, let's talk about Susan Astronominov, better known as the one and only Mandark from Dexter's laboratory. He's Dexter's evil boy genius rival, but his story is pretty tragic. Born to hippie parents, Oceanbird and Windbear, they named him Susan. He was drawn to science, totally opposite to their peace and love vibe. They tried to make him hug trees, he bit them. They tried to paint murals, he painted demonic horrors. This kid was just wired differently. When he first met Dexter, Susan, with his long hair, tried to be friends, but Dexter just laughed and mocked him for being girly. In that moment of humiliation, Susan died, and Mandark was born. He built a lab dedicated to destroying Dexter's. For a while, he was even better than Dexter, but then Dee Dee, his obsessive love, accidentally destroyed his lab. That trauma changed him. His skills declined, he was always a step behind Dexter. His personality curdled, and his lab became a dark, gothic nightmare, reflecting his growing evil. He became a lonely, bitter being, consumed by a rivalry. Even as he became the corrupted overlord Mandark in the future, his obsessive love for Dee Dee never changed. But then, the Dexters from different times show up to kick some serious butt. There's this epic showdown where Overlord Mandark and Action Dexter are duking it out, and Action Dexter loosens Overlord Mandark's grappling hook. Overlord Mandark falls flat on his face. Just as the Dexters are about to deactivate something called the Protocore, Dee Dee shows up in Dexter's time machine. All the Mandarks from every timeline become completely goo-goo-eyed and powerless just by seeing her. While they're all mesmerized, Dee Dee innocently presses a button, resetting the Protocore. The positive energy starts undoing Overlord Mandark's corruption. The other Mandarks disappear. Then, Overlord Mandark, his body corrupted by negative energy, can't handle the positive. He lets out a super powerful, agonizing "no" before his entire body explodes. All that's left is his disembodied brain. His love for Dee Dee literally blew him up. Talk about a fate worse than death, right? And for our final, most chilling entry in the Fates Worse Than Death category, we return to the world of the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy to look at a villain whose punishment was the most ironic, most psychologically devastating fate imaginable. Let's talk about the Boogeyman. He was Grimm's old-school bully, the guy who made the literal personification of Death's life a living heck back in junior high. You'd think a guy with that kind of reputation would be absolutely terrifying, right? Well, Boogie's biggest problem is that he's just not scary anymore. He's washed up. He blames it on everything he can think of. Cartoons, video games, and for some reason that is never explained, the tuba. His big comeback happens in the episode Bully Boogie, where he rolls up on Grimm, Billy, and Mandy, ready to prove he's still got it. Mandy proposes a scaring contest. This is Boogie's moment to shine. It's his chance to reclaim his throne as the King of Fright. And what happens? He loses, pathetically. He fails so hard that he gets banished to the Nightmare Realm, a dimension he himself used to trap his victims in, but it gets so much worse. The real magnum opus of Boogie's suffering comes in the movie Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure. Boogie's grand plan is to get his hands on a super powerful artifact called Horror's Hand, capable of making anyone's worst nightmare a reality. He finally gets the hand, he puts it on, and in that one single moment, his destiny is fulfilled, just not in the way he expected. Instead of making everyone else afraid of him, the hand's power backfires and makes him afraid of everything. I don't think we can fully comprehend the sheer, unending torture of that condition. He's not just scared of spiders or heights. He's scared of the floor. He's scared of the air. He's scared of his own shadow, his own thoughts. Every single second of his existence is now pure terror. He was never seen again after this. And why would he be? He's probably hiding under a bed somewhere, quivering in fear of dust bunnies. Now, that is a fate far, far more gruesome than any simple demise. It's crazy to think that some of these came from movies and shows we watched as kids, right? Cartoon Network definitely doesn't pull all their punches when it comes to the bad guys getting their comeuppance. Which one do you think is the most gruesome?